According to the president, Korea will increase size of aid to Ukraine. South Korean President Yoon Hye-yeol pledged on Saturday, during his first visit to the war-torn country, to expand humanitarian aid and zero military deaths to Ukraine. South Korea, the ninth largest arms importer in the world, has a long-standing policy of not providing deadly weapons to conflict zones. Seoul will expand the scale of equipment compared to last year when we provided items such as helmets and bulletproof vests, said Yoon. Yoon added that humanitarian aid will increase from $100 million last year to $150 million by 2023. Was announced at a press conference with the President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky. Speaking at the conference, Zelensky said, "Thank you for your meaningful speech. Thank you for your great support. We talked about everything that is important for people to lead a good and safe life," Zelensky told reporters. Thanked Yoon for a new initiative to provide financial, technical and humanitarian assistance to Ukraine, but did not elaborate. The Ukrainian leader also praised the transfer of vehicles and equipment that helped us save lives. Before the meeting, Yoon visited the Bucha temple, which was accused by Russian soldiers of killing people. Yoon, "Ukraine now reminds me of Korea in the past." He welcomed the international program that allowed South Korea to magically defeat North Korea and eventually become one of the world's largest economies. Weapons, including tanks, howitzers and ammunition shells. Sold tanks and howitzers to Poland, an important ally of Kyiv, against the Russian army. Yoon said earlier this year that Russia's massive crackdown on civilians could show the balance. In May, however, South Korea denied U.S. media reports of shells being sent to Ukraine, saying its policy of not providing lethal aid to Kyiv has not changed. Experts warn that South Korea is in a difficult situation due to its close trade relations with Russia, the 15th largest trading partner as of 2022, and Moscow's influence on North Korea. AFP. Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol paid a surprise visit to Ukraine, expressing his support for the country's war against Russia. After traveling to Lithuania and Poland for a NATO meeting, he went to Ukraine with his wife, Kim Gun-hee, according to Yoon's office on Saturday. It was his first visit to Ukraine since Russia annexed it about 17 months ago. After the two leaders' meeting, Zelensky thanked Seoul for its definite support for Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity, and for its political security, aid money and people since the outbreak of the Russian war. Today, during the first visit of the President of Korea to Ukraine in our relationship history, we talked about everything that is important for people to live together and safely, Zelensky said. Thanks for the topic. He promised to expand the size of his military aid to Ukraine, adding that humanitarian aid will grow from $100 million to $150 million in 2023. He and Zelensky also agreed to cooperate on the rebuilding of Ukraine after the war. He said they agreed on it. Also, South Korea will establish a scholarship named after Yoon and Zelensky to provide support to Ukrainian students in South Korea. First, Yoon visited two small towns near Kyiv, Bucha and Irpin, where mass graves and civilian bodies were found on the streets of the two towns after the Russian army withdrew from the land investment last year. He left flowers at the National Monument to the War Dead. Yoon's chief media advisor, Kim Eun-hye, said in a statement. The president first visited the site of the massacre where rockets were aimed at residents in the city of Bucha, near Kyiv, and the city of Irpin. Expression. In a recent letter to questions from the Associated Press, Yoon stated that the security of the Atlantic and the Indo-Pacific region are closely related, saying, "The war in Ukraine, in particular, reminds us of all the security challenges facing the United States. Ukraine now reminds me of South Korea's past," said Yoon, who welcomed the international assistance that allowed South Korea to miraculously defeat North Korea and eventually emerge as one of the world's largest economies. South Korea, USA. Friends and emerging markets have faced new pressure to supply Ukraine with weapons, but Yoon's leader has rejected a request for humanitarian and financial aid and concerns over Russia's influence on North Korea. Yoon said this week that his government is preparing. At Ukraine's request, it will send evacuation equipment and an ambulance and join the NATO Ukraine Trust Fund. South Korea's Ministry of Defense, which asked IN to support military operations, said it was talking about shipments of ammunition to the United States. However, in May, South Korea denied the U.S. media reports that the U.S. had sent artillery shells to Ukraine, saying it did not support Kyiv. "We see Russia's influence in the international community as a challenge to democracy, human rights, and the rule of law," Yoon said during a meeting with Polish President Andrzej Duda on Thursday. He added on Thursday that South Korea could be a good partner in construction. Ukraine. South Korea's Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport and Tourism said on Friday that it plans to support the rebuilding of Ukraine's transport, energy and business infrastructure. South Korean companies and companies from Ukraine and other countries signed an agreement on Friday to cooperate in the reconstruction of Ukraine, the ministry said in a statement.